Welcome to the Grace and Grit podcast, made for women who want their healthiest years to be ahead of them, not behind them. Join your host, Courtney Townley, right now as she breaks down the fairy tale health story you have been chasing all of your life into sensible action steps and lasting change. Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Grace and Grit podcast. I hope you are doing awesomely well. I hope you are being kind to yourself, and I really hope you're extending a little grace or a lot of grace to the people around you, because people are tired, and not in a sleep can fix this kind of way. In the age of COVID, our brains, our psyches, our mental health has been challenged in so many new ways. We have stood face to face with uncertainty like never before. And we've adapted and rerouted, and we've had to get really damn creative with balancing all these new demands, like working from home and homeschooling kids and not seeing loved ones as often as we'd like to. It's been a lot. And sure, life has always been unpredictable and ripe with challenges. COVID just took that to a new level. We are dealing with the challenges of everyday life while simultaneously dealing with a global pandemic that has greatly altered life as we know it. And my life didn't really change all that much. I live in Montana. I already worked from home, but my kid has basically been out of school for a year. He's been in the hybrid model since September. They just went back to school 4 days a week last week. My social life looks radically different. Basically, it's non-existent. I usually travel a lot, and I haven't traveled in almost a year until just recently, and I'm going to tell you more about that today. There's a ton of uncertainty about our economic future. I worry a lot about my loved ones. I have anxiety about not seeing my loved ones. And on top of that, a lot like probably you're experiencing, I have a lot of personal challenges. And I got pooped. I got to a place over the past month where I was just wiped out, and not just tired, but uninspired and unexcited, which is not who I am. And those feelings, feeling uninspired and feeling unexcited about my life, is a huge red flag that I don't just need a nap. I need a break. I need a timeout. I need to regroup. I need to reset. I need to remember who I am. And if you're on my email list, you received an email this past week telling you a little bit about a trip that I took last week. And in case you're not on my email list, here's what the email said. It said, last weekend, I went on a secret mission. The mission's name, Restore Courtney. The mission's objective was to give myself an opportunity for the kind of rest that sleep alone cannot provide. Why was it secret? Because I was that committed to the cause. I wanted zero distractions. Here's the backstory. A few weeks ago, my husband, who undoubtedly is the best human I know, asked me what I wanted to do for my birthday. Honestly, babe, the idea of doing anything sounds exhausting. I'm pooped, and not in a sleep can fix this kind of way, was my answer. Then you should go away for a few days, was his response. Did I mention that he's an amazing person? So I briefly wrestled with all the reasons why I should not go on this trip, why I should not take a few days off. But I quickly realized that those same reasons were the reasons why I must go. My family needs me. My business needs me. For crying out loud, I need me. So I did a quick Google search of where the sun was going to be shining the brightest, February 4th through the 7th, and I ended up booking a last-minute ticket to Scottsdale, Arizona, for 4 days on a quest to do absolutely nothing but rest deeply. And rest I did. The plan was to have no plan. And so I slept. I walked for hours. I drank coffee at outdoor cafes. I read, I cried, I talked to strangers. I marinated in the sun. I meditated. I ate a ton of great food. I thought a lot about my future. And most importantly, I started to come back to life. I started to recognize myself again. And I share this with you because I talk to a lot of women every day who are also exhausted in a way that sleep alone cannot fix, especially now, especially in the age of COVID. Maybe you can relate. So today I want to talk about 3 ways to bring yourself back to life if you've been feeling like the life has been sucked out of your life. And this is the 3 steps, I'll just tell you right now, are number 1, recovery, which to me is rebalancing your chemistry. Doing the basic things that will help you to settle your chemistry and help your physiology and psychology work in a more efficient way. So when I talk about recovery, I'm referring to sleep and food and hydration and moving your body, all the things that influence our chemistry. Step 2 is restoration. And restoration in my book is restoring your belief in yourself, restoring the vision you have for your life and for your possibility, which you can't do if you're tired all the time. And the 3rd step is reviving your zest for life. It's having the energy and the vision to go after the things on your heart. So we talk a lot about the importance of recovery in the wellness industry, how important sleep and rest is to our mental and physical well-being. I personally have done several podcast episodes on this very topic, and recovery is a very important component of every single course I teach. So what is recovery exactly? Well, in my view, it's the replenishing of limited resources like time, energy, and willpower. These are things that if we respect them and we honor their need to be replenished, we get more of them each day. But if we neglect that need, we move into a space of feeling very depleted and often hit that wall of burnout. So the Cambridge Dictionary defines recovery as the process of getting something back. And the process of getting something back along your wellness journey are things like your energy and your willpower. You're restoring those things. You're restoring your cell's ability to do all of its jobs. Your cells have a lot of jobs to do in the day. And replenishing the resources that you use every day is so imperative for you to feel alive, for you to feel well, and for you to have the energy to go after the real work of your life. Without ample recovery time, everything feels hard and not much excites you because you literally just want to sleep. So recovery is kind of ground zero, right? When we're feeling like we're in a space of depletion or feeling really run down or feeling really unexcited about things, the first place I encourage people to look is at their recovery time. Are you getting enough sleep? Are you putting boundaries on your output? So what does that mean, putting boundaries on your output? Do you put limits on your work, your working hours? Are you over-exercising? Are you over-delivering to everybody else but yourself? This is what I mean by putting boundaries on your output. You have to honor your body's need for sleep, and you have to learn how to extend yourself permission to rest, which means you're not putting out energy. You're just resting, you're restoring, you're replenishing your energy. Because when you do, your hormones are more likely to find their happy place. And remember, your hormones are the government of your body. They govern everything about your physiology and even your psychology. So if your hormones are not in their happy place, you're going to feel very misaligned. When you are giving your body ample recovery, you're less reactive, you're a better problem solver, and you ultimately have more to give to everything. You have more energy in your workouts, you have more creativity at your job, you have more energy to deal with the problems that life is throwing you. But here's the thing. As important as recovery is, recovery alone isn't enough to make the most out of your life. Like I said, recovery is kind of ground zero. I personally don't just want to refill my fuel tank each day. I want to learn how to supercharge my engine. I want to do what I can to optimize my mind, body, and soul so I can make the most out of this opportunity called life. I want to make the most out of this one shot I get at this life. So this is where two other elements come in: restoration and revitalization. And I know what you're going to say. Well, Courtney, aren't they all the same thing? In my opinion, no, they aren't. And here's why. So a large majority of my clients fall in the age bracket, I would say between 40 and 65 years old. I certainly have outliers. I have women older than that and clients younger than that, but that's the large majority of the women I work with. And I love this age group because there are so many interesting challenges at play at this age and stage of life. Between the ages of 40 and 65, typically is a time where we are balancing the most amount of stress we've ever had while simultaneously going through massive hormonal shifts that make us the most sensitive to stress that we've ever been. So we're dealing with the most amount of stress at a time in life where we have the least amount of hormones that actually help us to manage that stress. And of course, I'm speaking about estrogen and progesterone. This is also a time in life where I see women really kind of looking around at their life and wanting to renovate parts of their life. There's often a lot about their life that they're very proud of and that they want to keep. And there are other parts of their life that just don't feel like they fit anymore, that are causing them a lot of unnecessary stress. And so they start recognizing that some renovation needs to be done in their life. If you enjoy the Grace and Grit podcast, I would love to extend an invitation to you to join me inside of my exclusive membership called Rumble and Rise. Rumble and Rise was created to help women ditch diet culture and really learn how to become self-directed along their health journey. It is heavily rooted in mindset, helping you to like who you are, what you do, and why you do the things you do. Rumble and Rise is an incubator of support and education unlike anything else you will find inside the health and wellness space, especially for the price point. It's only $59 a month, or if you opt for the annual membership, it's $590 a year. So what exactly does your membership fee get you? Every single week, I offer a group coaching call where I invite you to hop on a call with me and other members and allow me to coach you through whatever you're wrestling with along your health journey. There is a very robust library of masterclasses waiting for you that will help you to become more self-directed along your health journey. There is a very robust vault of resources available to you, including guided meditations, workouts, nutrition information, and best of all, the masterclasses, the replays of the group coaching calls, and the guided meditations are all accessible through a members-only private podcast, so you can access everything on the go. If you love the Grace and Grit podcast, if you resonate with the message and you have wanted to work with me, this is the best of what I have to offer you as a coach. The feedback from current members has been remarkable, and I would be so honored for you to join us. You can find out all the juicy details of what the membership includes, and you can register by going to graceandgrit.com/ready to rumble. And there's no long-term obligation. You can leave at any time. So once again, graceandgrit.com/ready to rumble. I really hope I will be seeing you on the inside. This age bracket is also a period of time where women start to recognize in a very powerful way that they have neglected parts of themselves that they now want to restore. So they want to restore their priorities, the things that are most important to them. Because honestly, a lot of us have had that experience in our 20s and 30s where life just kind of carried us away. Other people's priorities became our priorities. Or maybe we never took the time to ask ourselves what we really wanted. And so we have to restore our understanding of our own priorities and values. I also see women in this age bracket really needing to restore their trust in themselves to show up for the things that they promise themselves. And of course, this shows up really glaringly in the wellness industry, right? In the wellness space. So a lot of women, they want to eat better. They want to exercise more. They want to get to bed earlier at night. But they don't necessarily trust themselves to follow through with those behaviors with any degree of consistency. So this is what I'm speaking to when I say we need to restore parts of ourselves. We need to restore our priorities and values. We need to restore disciplines that help us to stay in alignment with who we want to be in the world. We need to restore our capacity for joy. And this is a big thing that I see, again, a lot of women in this age group struggling with, is we become so focused on productivity, so focused on serving other people, so focused on other people's crises that we've almost kind of forgotten how to joy spot. We have forgotten how to look for all the joy that is available to us every single day. And that's a restoration process. That's a restoration practice. And of course, above all, I see women in this stage of life want more than anything to restore their confidence. Now, I do believe there's a level of confidence that comes from the aging process itself. As we get older, we kind of tend to let the opinions of others, fall away. And we care less about what other people think about our decisions. But I also see a lot of women rumbling with doing the things that are on their heart because they are still concerned about the opinions of others, or because they don't trust themselves to be able to figure it out. And so I do see a big struggle with confidence in this age bracket. And I look at that as a restoration process. It can be restored. We just have to engage with practices that help us to restore our confidence. So restoration is not sleep. It is a practice of remembering who you wanted to be and a practice of making decisions that allows you to live in alignment with that vision. And you can't restore without sleep. But restoration is more than sleep. It's remembering who you are and what you wanted for this life. It is realigning yourself with the practices that help you to stay focused, help you to stay honest with yourself, and help you to live in alignment with what you said you wanted. So when I think of restoration practices, I like to think of anchors. I often talk to my clients about habits that are anchors. An anchor habit is something that you do every single day, or you want to do every single day, that makes a massive difference in how your day rolls. So for some people, that's having a morning routine. For some people, it's taking 5 or 10 minutes to journal. Some people, it's doing 5 or 10 minutes of meditation. For some people, they need to go for an hour-long walk. Some people need to dance. Some people need to practice art. I don't know what your anchors are, but I bet you do. I bet you know the practices that help you to feel like you're coming home to yourself. The practices that remind you about who you are and what you want for your life. So restoring is aligning your actions with who you want to be, which also requires restoring your belief that you are worth your own time and effort. And this is really important for me to say because restoration is really difficult and downright impossible if you don't think you are worth your own time and energy. You will never make an effort, or I should say, you will never make any kind of consistent effort to restore yourself, to make time for the things that remind you of who you are and what you want for your life if you don't believe you're worth it. So a big part of restoring yourself, I believe, is remembering your worth, a practice of worthiness. And remember, just by being human, you are worthy. And once you're restored, once you re-engage with the practices that help you to feel aligned with yourself, that help you to feel like you're in integrity with yourself, you are naturally so much more inspired to go after the things that you really want. You're inspired to have new experiences and to take new risks and to live your life rather than just survive it. So I looked up the definition to revitalizing, and the Cambridge Dictionary says it is to put new life or energy into something. And I love that because I crave that sometimes. And I bet you've had that experience too. I've had moments in my life where life just kind of felt void of color. It felt lackluster. Like, haven't I kind of done it all? Like, what's left? And to me, that again is always a cue that I need to breathe new life into my life. Now, again, that means something different to everybody. What makes you come alive may be very different and probably is very different from what makes me come alive. But some of the things that I think we want to consider are things like learning a new skill, having a new adventure. Maybe it's just driving a new way home from work, stopping at a new coffee shop instead of the one you've been going to for the last 10 years. Maybe it's studying something you've always been interested in learning about. Maybe it's putting yourself in new social situations so you build new social circles, you make new friends. So it's worth thinking about for a moment, what might help me to come alive? Even look at your past, reference your past. Where are the spaces and places along your lifeline where you felt like your life got infused with new life, with new energy? I bet it was attached to having some kind of new experience. But the truth is, you will never move to this stage. You will never seek out new experiences if you are constantly exhausted and or you don't develop your confidence. So if you don't create ample time in your life to recover, if you don't establish practices that help to restore your faith in yourself, going after new opportunities and new adventures and taking new risks will really remain elusive to you. Breathing new life into your life requires absolutely that you are rested. So that's that stage one, the recovery. You've got to consider your recovery. It also requires that you have resources to spend. So if you're not recovered, you're not going to have the time, the energy, the willpower to go after new things. And breathing new life into your life also requires that you believe your life is so precious that you're willing to get uncomfortable to make the most out of it. Because let's face it, making new friends, taking new risks, having new experiences, learning new skills, it all requires discomfort. There's nothing wrong with that. It means you're doing it right. But I will tell you, I will trade any day of the week the discomfort that comes from being exhausted and unexcited about my life for the discomfort that comes from living life full out. It is so much better and so much more beneficial and such a better feeling to live with the level of discomfort that comes from seeking out new experiences than the level of discomfort that comes from feeling exhausted and depleted and burnt out all the time. So I don't know where you are right now. Maybe all you need is a good night's sleep. I would argue that's really where a lot of people are right now. Like, a lot of people need to start with just honoring their body and brain's need for ample sleep and rest. But once you have made a consistent practice of that, I hope that you will lean into the real work of your life, the bigger work of your life, which is restoring the truth of who you are and going after the things that you need to go after to be truly fulfilled and fully expressed. So recovery is ground zero. Restoration, remembering who you are and putting in place those practices that keep you focused and organized and honest with yourself, is that intermediate stage. And then the third stage of breathing life back into our life is the process of revitalization, which is that chasing new experiences and going after new things and putting yourself in new environments. Because that is where we learn and we grow. And that's life. Life is a process of learning and growing. And if you aren't learning and growing, you're stagnating. And stagnating is not a healthy space. And you'll know if you stagnate because it doesn't feel good. It feels very lackluster. So I don't know who needed to hear this today. I needed to practice all of this most recently, which is why I shared this with you. But I hope if you are someone who is feeling just kind of meh about life, if you're someone who feels like you need to infuse a little life into your life, I hope there's something in here today that will help you do just that. And of course, if you need help with this, this is the work that we do inside of Rumble and Rise, which is my paid community. It's $59 a month. It gives you access to incredible resources, a private podcast, and probably the most value I think a lot of members get from that community is a lot of opportunity to be coached by me. So I do weekly coaching calls to help you work through your own rumbles and your own just challenges along your health journey. So join us if that feels like it would be a good fit for you. There is no obligation. So you could always come in and test it out for a month and you can leave at any time. But it is my heart and I just am so proud of what we've created in that space. And I know the members are getting a lot out of it. So I hope you will consider joining us. You can go to graceandgrit.com/ready-to-rumble to find out more about that. Otherwise, I would just say to you, continue to extend yourself lots of grace, continue to extend lots of grace to those around you. And I am cheering you on 110%. I will see you again very soon. Take care. Thank you for listening to the Grace and Grit podcast. It is time to mend the fabric of the female health story, and it starts with you taking radical responsibility for your own self-care. You are worth the effort, and with a little grace and grit, anything is possible.